One thing that I learned is that in many ways, mainstream science operates like so many of the religions that are out there. There are just a lot of rules, there's a lot of authority, there's a lot of hierarchy, there's a lot of this is right and that is wrong, and we know the truth. And a lot of this sort of dog eat dog, or life is hard and difficult. And there's a lot of that thinking that infuses all of it and makes assumptions. And there's a closely related religion of materialism, which says that the material, the things that you see, the material things that you see are all that there is. Is spirituality just another, is it like religion in disguise? Is that all it is? And that's what I used to think. And so in this video, I really want to go in and talk about that idea that, spirituality is just somebody who's talking about religion, but using a different word for it. And I think it really it's worth exploring. But before I dive in, I'm Dr. Morgan Giddings for Inner Ways Forward. I'm a former scientist who left. I had a large lab, I had tenure, all of that. I left the scientific enterprise. One of the big reasons that I left was because I was just so frustrated about that system, about the sort of way it operated. And I've been doing other stuff ever since. I still help scientists. I still talk to scientists pretty frequently. But nonetheless, I want to share my experience because I've always been super curious about, philosophically, like how and why do we exist, and what is our consciousness? What is that really all about? And in this video, let's dive into this topic because I've been talking some about sort of spiritual concepts here in Inner Ways Forward, because really the idea behind this is that we, humanity, we're going through a big change. It's both societal changes and personal changes. And that change is really obvious in our politics right now, especially in the United States, but I think even globally, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. So it's really obvious in that arena. But I think if you look under the hood, you also see that we have our systems really that we have built are crumbling. If you look at the economic system, what's going on there is not very sustainable. If you look at the academic system, there's a lot of brokenness there, unfortunately. There's a lot of brokenness with a lot of things right now. And I think I've talked in the past about this idea of we are in the phase of Shiva, the destroyer, that really it's the destruction phase. And I think we have a chance to rebuild. But how we rebuild and what attitude we bring into that rebuilding really matters, again, for us individually and for all of humanity, whether we build something truly better or not. And so what we're talking about is that this foundation that we build upon. And this question is more than just a personal question, although it is like of spirituality versus religion. It's a bigger question of, are we going to build something in the future that's based upon that? So how I differentiate a couple ways, and just background actually before I dive into that, is that I grew up in a place where there was a very strong dominant religion all around. It was the LDS, the Mormon religion. And I was not directly a part of that, but I had many relatives who were a part of that. And I was exposed to it day in and day out and saw very much how that religion operated, but from the outside. And I chose to never join that and have never joined any kind of religion because there were certain things about that religion that really bothered me. I think there are good things too. So I don't want to just condemn it all together because there are good things that can come from religion. But some of the things that I saw that really bothered me and made me say, no, I don't want to be a part of that, and that are true of so many religions, this is just not singling out one religion, is that almost all religion, at least in Western society, the sort of ones that I've seen, are very authority-based. And again, I know that's a broad statement, and I want to be careful because I'm sure there are some exceptions. But the ones that I have personally encountered the most of are very authority-based. You've got a priesthood or some kind of thing at the top that's usually males, usually white males, occasionally some other people, but it's very authority based. And it's based on the idea that of ultimately, even in a spiritual sense, of this authority, that there's a God out there that is just an authority who has created this experience to test us. So it's not only that it's all very hierarchical and authority based, and you've got to follow the rules, and it is very rule based too. You've got to follow the rules. And if you don't follow the rules, that you're going to be punished. So it's very strict. It's very often very rigorous, like you do this, but you don't do that. This is right and this is wrong. And it's usually up to the interpretation of whoever's reading whatever biblical text or whatever, right? And so there are a lot of rules that you have to follow that will, if you break them, then you're bad. If you follow them, then you're good. So it like plays into a lot of ego as well, which is not so great in my opinion. And apart from that, it has this worldview quite often, and again, this is not all religions, but many that I have encountered have this worldview that, again, we're here to be tested. We have to prove ourselves. We have to prove ourselves. Like that's a fundamental part of the whole thing, is proving ourselves in this very difficult world. Now, I want to contrast this with the spirituality that I have found and how this idea, general sense of spirituality is different. In spirituality, there is a lot of tuning into the magic, tuning into the heart, tuning into our subjective experience and caring about our subjective experience. Is it a good experience? But also caring about others, caring about the life that exists in places like this and everywhere, caring about the trees, the plants, the animals, caring about the air that we breathe, caring about the bigger thing, and really being more whole humans. And what I mean by that is that so much of how we've been trained, even if we don't think we're religious, I think sometimes we are, and I'll get back to that, but this idea of tuning only into our rational minds. So many of us in our schooling and training, especially if we've been college educated, or like I was further than college, like PhDs and postdocs and all of that kind of stuff. If we're trained in that kind of way, then, we're trained to use just our rational mind and think that's the only valid tool that we have really to deal with reality. And I think that's very limiting and short-sighted. So part of this idea of spirituality to me is to tune into the other faculties that we do have, but are often suppressed for so many of us, that we limit ourselves, we shut them down, we only tune into the rational mind. And if you're somebody who's ever tried meditating and had the squirrel running in your mind, that's your rational mind on hyperdrive, because I think for most of us it is. And the real idea behind meditation is to get quiet so you can tune into some of these other faculties. And the ones that I like to talk about in some of the coursework stuff that I do for people are the other ones include intuition, tuning into a deeper guidance, a deeper sense of I can receive some kind of signals about things that aren't directly through my five senses. That's intuition. There's imagination. Imagination is imagining possibilities that don't exist and that often defy reason. Imagination is able to go way beyond reason. And so imagination is another faculty. And then feeling, the feeling faculty. And it's feeling, we have also a very stunted relationship in our culture quite often with feeling, because for many people, feeling is just all lumped in with emotion, often biochemical reactive emotion like anger or frustration or sexual attraction or things like that. And we don't see the nuances, the levels that exist to this thing that we call feeling. And I believe and have experienced and taught that there are deeper layers beneath just this emotional layer. There are layers that tell us more about who we are and that connect to deeper feelings like the compassion or coming out to a beautiful place like this and just taking that breath, breathing, connecting to all that is. Wow, look at that. Look at those clouds. That's so, what good timing, right? It's a little chilly out here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to be out here much more this season because we're expecting snow soon, but wow, it was good timing. So anyway, it's stopping and tuning in to things like that. I'm trying to keep that in the video because it's so awesome. That beautiful sunset. It's perfect for this message. So I had the intuition to come to this spot. Like, I don't come to this particular spot very often, but I just today had that intuition. I'm like, I want to come out here before it gets too cold, and I want to record a video about this. And like, wow, like this is what, when we tune into the other faculties that we can experience. It's just so amazing, so amazing. And this isn't religion. This is, to me, spirituality. This is connecting to the broader universe. Like, how did it all come to be that produced this? And it's a sense of awe. It's a sense of wonder. It's a sense of magic. It's a sense of tuning into the greater reality that we exist in. That, to me, is the real core of spirituality. It is understanding that, yes, we are in this bag of flesh and bones and all of that, yes, but we are more than just that. There is part of us that transcends just this body and somehow connects to all of this. And I have ideas about how that is, and I've shared them in other videos, and we'll share them more in the future. But it's so fundamental, I think. And what happened to me is when I rejected religion, because my father had rejected that same religion, and when he grew up in a family that was that way, and he rejected it, and so I chose to reject it as well. And yet I threw out that proverbial baby with the bathwater. I threw out that sense of awe and wonder, at least to some extent. I was held on to it a little bit, but I got into this materialism, this thing that if you look at mainstream science, mainstream education, mainstream academics, they teach you not as much to have that sense of wonder or imagination. They teach you that your subjectivity is not that important. It's just the data and the facts that are important. They teach you that reason is more important than imagination. Still, seriously, like, this is so amazing. I get to watch this while I'm talking to you. This is so cool. Anyway, it's so sad that we get trained to stop, to disconnect from that stuff. And when I talk about spirituality, when I encourage that here, it's because as I have gone on this very long journey of rediscovering this connection, this openness, this curiosity, it has been amazing, and it has just made my life better and better, despite all of the crazy bad stuff that's going on out there right now. And if you look at my material circumstances, it's not better. Like if you look at my bank account or look at, things like that, it's not necessarily better. I'd say my health has improved, but, a lot of other things haven't improved, but I feel better. I feel like more purposeful. I feel like just more a part of all of this amazing, wondrous, oh my God, I'm so in awe. This is so perfect. So anyway, I'm sorry that I keep oohing and awing about this, but I'm so happy to be able to share this sunset during this moment about this with you. So my point is that I believe that, and I don't have a better word for it, but I believe that tuning into, being open to, being curious about the bigger picture that we exist in and how we came to exist and why we're really here, and that it's not necessarily just random. And that leads to me to the sort of point that I'll come to the penultimate, the second to the last thing in the video, is just talking about materialism and sort of the religion of mainstream science. Because, again, I was part of the system, and you learn a thing or two. One thing that I learned is that in many ways, mainstream science operates like so many of the religions that are out there. There are just a lot of rules. There's a lot of authority. There's a lot of hierarchy. There's a lot of this is right and that is wrong, and we know the truth. And a lot of this sort of dog eat dog, or life is hard and difficult. And there's a lot of that thinking that infuses all of it and makes assumptions. And there's a closely related religion of materialism, which says that the material, the things that you see, the material things that you see are all that there is. There's nothing else going on here, nothing to see. Even though there are all these bizarre quantum effects that still nobody can explain, and there's all sorts of stuff that physics actually can't explain if you really dig in, but nothing to see here. It's all just like billiard ball bouncing around randomly, and evolution was entirely random. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that I'm a creationist. I am not. I do not believe there was some, whatever in the sky, dude in the sky who just went presto blammo 6,000 years ago, or whenever it was supposed to be, according to the people who believe that. I'm not saying that, but I'm also saying that that's one religious view on evolution, on how we're here. But there's also the other religious view, which says it must be random, because there can be no magic, there can be nothing else going on, but just this random thing that sort of happened for some reason that's against all odds, but it happened for some reason. So I'll finish with this idea of evolution. I'm a big believer in a process of evolution. I believe as people we evolve. I believe that our consciousness, our souls evolve. I believe that the universe evolves. And I believe that being spiritual is compatible with a fundamental sense of evolution, that we are all evolving, that things are evolving, that culture is evolving, that humanity is evolving, but that it's at a much deeper level than we pay attention to. It's not just this material surface level. I mean, that's one level of it, but there are much deeper levels going on that then show up as this surface level stuff. And we've lost our sunset. That was so awesome, though. Maybe I'll show another clip of it. So anyway, when I compare religion to spirituality, to me, they are two very different things. And again, I wish I had a better word for spirituality that doesn't sound like it's almost religion. Consciousness, you could call it, maybe. Awareness. But, those are, if you talk about those things, nobody knows what you're talking about. Anyway, just food for thought for you to think about, is there a part of you, if you're curious about our broader place in the world, but don't know what to call it, or really whether spirituality puts you in this category that I didn't want to be a part of, being part of that hierarchical religion, then maybe spirituality is something. Maybe it's just curiosity, open-mindedness, and trying to go deeper and discovering our place in the universe. All right, and I'll wrap up with that and with saying, I forgot to mention at the beginning, I would love it if you could give me a like. Also, watching to the end like you have, if you're still hearing this, thank you so much. That apparently helps in the algorithms, so I really appreciate you watching to the end. And subscribing, if you're not subscribed, that's really helpful in supporting my work here. And yeah, I'll be coming back to you soon, and hopefully I don't know if I can catch another moment like that, but I'll try to use my intuition to find the next one. So until then, I'll see you later. This is Morgan signing off.